welcome to a new edition of our program Africa Today. And today we will review some reports from the African continent, and we will focus on Davos Forum, which is currently taking place in Switzerland with the participation of Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli. We were going to review some of the files that are expected to be tackled in this important forum. And billionaires' wealth grew 3 times faster in 2024 than the year before, as some of the world's political and financial elite prepared for an annual gathering in Davos, Switzerland. The statement was made by Oxfam, a top anti-poverty and global advocacy group, which also noted that life expectancy in Africa is just under 64 years of age compared to over 79 years in Europe. More in the coming report.
Oxfam International, in its latest assessment of global inequality timed to the opening of the World Economic Forum meeting in Davos, predicted at least 5 billionaires will crop up over the next decade. Oxfam's research adds ways to a warning by outgoing President Joe Biden last week of a dangerous concentration of power in the hands of very few ultra-wealthy people. The group's sharp-edged report, titled Takers Not Makers, also says the number of people in poverty has barely budged since 1990. The World Economic Forum is hosting some 3,000 attendees, including business executives, academics, government officials and civic group leaders at its annual meeting in the Alpine village of Davos. President-elect Donald Trump, who visited Davos twice during his first term and took oath of office on Monday, is expected to take part in the forum's event by video on Thursday. He has long championed wealth accumulation, including his own, and counts multi-billionaire Elon Musk as a top advisor. Amitabh Bihar, executive director of Oxfam International, said in an interview that what is being witnessed at the moment is a billionaire president taking oaths today, backed by the richest man, referring to Trump and Musk. The group called for steps like the break-up of monopolies, capping CEO pay and regulation of corporations to ensure they pay living wages to workers. Citing World Bank data, the group pointed to mushrooming poverty, saying the number of people living on less than $6.85 per day has barely changed since 1990. On average, Oxfam said low and middle income countries are spending nearly half their national budgets on debt repayments. It also noted that life expectancy in Africa is just under 64 years of age, compared to over 79 years in Europe. The continued rise of artificial intelligence as a tool for business to reap greater efficiencies will also again be a central theme in Davos, despite worries in many sectors that AI could upend many white-collar jobs and displace workers in an array of industries. Trump's return for a second term will likely be on many lips in Davos, as will conflicts including wars in Ukraine and Sudan, along with hopes for a continuation of a ceasefire that began on Sunday between the Israelis and Hamas, pausing the devastating 15-month war in Gaza. Forum organizers last week issued a survey conducted among 900 experts for a global risk report, which found that conflicts between countries was the top concern, followed by extreme weather, economic confrontation, misinformation and disinformation, and societal polarization, a nod to the gap between the rich and the poor. As in past years, protesters calling for more economic equality, taxing the rich and pressing other demands took to the streets. Some blocked roads to Davos, snarling traffic in places and delaying trips for some attendees to the event, which runs through Friday.
And now we are joined over the phone by Mr. Wael, Foad, political analyst, to shed more light on the importance of Davos Forum this year. Good afternoon, sir. Can you hear me? Good afternoon.
Hello?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Wael.
Good afternoon.
So, sir, as we are talking about Davos Forum, what files do you expect would feature high on the Davos meetings with relations to Africa?
It is a very important meeting, conference, forum for saving Africa. Africa as a continent suffers from some problems in economic plan, in nutrition, in energy. So it is very important for Africa to hold so many forums in order to improve the situation in Africa.
Yes, Mr. Wael, U.S. President Donald Trump's decision to leave the Paris Climate Accord for the second time is being deliberated in Davos. How would this impact African states most affected by climate change and need of compensations to overcome repercussions of climate change?
Would you like to clarify the question, if you will?
Yes, I'm talking about the impact of climate change on Africa.
Yes, climate change in Africa. You know that Africa is in a place in the earth which faces high temperature. So the consequence is lack of water.
Yes.
Lack of water means lack of different agricultural products. Means lack of different category of animals, which means there are too many problems concerning also, and means there will be for many conflicts and need to overcome or have the upper hand on some countries, which causes at the end many mondial wars or African wars and the instability of the system and of the regime.
Mr. Wael, how are global challenges impacting the African economies?
It impacts many products concerning agriculture.
Yes.
Many products concerning it means that there will have a lack of jobs because of lack of territories that will be agriculture or cultivated by, and it means also lack of some needs for the population, which is trying to be, which is growing daily by percentage that causes some other economic problems. And the insatisfaction of the essential needs, the essential, for the essential life, which endly causes conflict in the social area.
Yes, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Wael Foad, the political analyst. Thank you for being with us. And we are, as we all know, that the Davos Forum is currently taking place in Africa. And forum organizers last week issued a survey conducted among 900 experts for Global Risks Report, which found that conflicts between countries was the top concern, followed by extreme weather, economic confrontation, misinformation and disinformation, and societal polarization, a nod to the gap between rich and poor. Of course, they are going to discuss all this and how would this place Africa with regards to the existence of such factors in comparison to other continents. Many topics are expected to be tackled in this important gathering. Back to our reports from the African continent, and we go to Nigeria, where the death toll of Nigerian tanker blast rose to 98. The dead were rushing to gather fuel from the petrol tanker truck when it flipped over on road in central Nigeria. Details in the coming report.
Nigerian rescuers on Monday raised toll from the explosion of a petrol tanker truck that killed people rushing to gather fuel from 86 to 98. Saturday's blast also injured 69 people after the tanker flipped over on a road in the center of the country. Around 20 shops were also destroyed in the flames, with the truck carrying 60,000 liters of gasoline. The blast struck at the Diko junction on the road linking the federal capital Abuja to the northern city of Kaduna. A crowd of people rushed to the spot where the tanker had turned over in search of fuel, whose price has soared in an economic crisis. Africa's most populous country has experienced inflation in excess of 30% for the past year. That has been fueled in part by the economic reforms, including the ending of a costly fuel subsidy of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. With petrol prices rising five-fold in 18 months, despite the country being Africa's largest oil producer, some Nigerians have become willing to risk their lives to collect fuel from vehicles involved in road accidents.
And in South Africa, a suspected gang leader known as Tiger escaped after being pulled from an illegal gold mine last week where at least 78 miners died. The development was reported by South African police, widely condemned for their month-long siege of illegal gold mine in which they cut off food and water in an attempt to force the miners out and arrest them. Details in the coming report.
An illegal miner was lifted from an abandoned gold pit in South Africa has died in hospital. Health officials made the announcement, raising the toll from the site to 88 since August. They said he was suffering from gastroenteritis and dehydration. A total of 1,907 clandestine miners were arrested after resurfacing from the shaft, following a police standoff at the site, which culminated in a rescue effort last week to retrieve the remaining miners, dozens of whom had died. The Health Ministry said the 32 miners in hospital are being closely watched by both doctors as well as the police. It comes after police announced a manhunt on Monday for an alleged kingpin behind the illegal mining activity in Stilfontein after having escaped custody with the help from officials. Locally known as Zama-Zamas, those who try in the Zulu language, the miners frustrate mining companies and are accused of criminality by residents. Police were widely condemned for their months-long siege of the illegal gold mine, in which they cut off food and water in an attempt to force the miners out and arrest them.
And by that, dear viewers, we come to the end of today's edition of Africa Today. Thank you for watching.